Hello and welcome to the final part of my Nick Davis interview series. I'm quite sad saying it like that. If you haven't watched the first two parts of this, then by all means feel free to go back and watch them, but don't feel you have to. When last we saw Nick, he told us all about life behind the scenes at White Dwarf, games development of like 3rd edition 40k and more time. Join us now as we find out what Nick got up to over the pond when he made the big move to America in Games Workshop America. Also, what it is he's up to now. Can't wait.
Yeah. So I want to segue now from your time at Games Workshop. You eventually left Games Workshop and you've made the move over to America. What was the kind of the impetus? What was the change there?
Okay, well, I think at this time, we were talking about early, about 1999. Still working for White Dwarf at that time. Gorka Morka just had popped around, and we were basically in the middle of the Warhammer games. I think basically before the Tau. I think just the Tau was being released at that time. It's just getting any time frame in 40k, and I met a girl, and decided to basically time to move to the USA and go west and chance my arm, my fortune here. And I resigned from Games Workshop. I said, it's just time for me to move on. Regret that a little bit at that time, but you got to take these chances in life. And I came to the USA. I spent about probably 6-7 months waiting my work authorization visas and that sort of thing. And again, this is like history repeating itself. I wrote an email to the studio head, Games Workshop studio head down in Maryland. That's where it was from, Baltimore, Maryland. I said, hi, my name is Nick Davis. You may remember me from my White Dwarf articles. I'm actually in the USA up here in Pennsylvania, Wilkesboro, Pennsylvania. It's not too far away from the your headquarters. Do you have any open positions? And they said yes. So again, I blagged my way into basically the Games Workshop Design Studio in the US. Started working on the burgeoning burgeoning website at the time. I think I was part of the web team. I did a lot of the catalog pages for the store at that period. I think it's changed completely now from what it used to be. But we'll bring up the catalog sections for the website and doing some small hobby stuff. I wasn't really heavily into doing hobby stuff at the very beginning in my time at GWS. But I came in and same attitude, like there's a US version of White Dwarf magazine. I'd like to write for that eventually. I mean, here's a guy who's established gaming. But I used words like established gaming personality and that sort of thing. But at the time, I kind of was, and I was figuring like that's a good truncation to basically get myself into basically working back to where I was. Took a little while to get back into the White Dwarf magazine, but I got to write some gaming magazines. I got to basically. I ran another gaming league. This is basically Lord of the Rings, I think, appeared at this time.
Strategy Battles in Middle-earth game.
Strategy Battles in Middle-earth. I actually loved that game. It became my go-to game in the end. We did Lord of the Rings stuff, and we started basically doing gaming leagues. And I basically started running these gaming leagues. We came up like in the Flash gaming modes that you can play at lunchtime. We basically just played gaming leagues there and did the catalog stuff. Then I basically moved over to the US edition of White Dwarf magazine when they had an open position, and did some Lord of the Rings articles for those guys. And it was an interesting fun period. Fun fact, basically, everybody in the studio had to sign an NDA because basically the time it's still connected to the movies, so we could see pictures of the movie. So we could basically see what's coming up and what we can talk about. And we thought it was really cool. We're going to sign an NDA. We're going to see some really cool images of stuff from Lord of the Rings. We didn't. what we saw was pictures of Gandalf's cart. So the opening scene when Gandalf is going into the Shire, and he's riding the cart, and Frodo jumps onto the cart, and that sort of thing. That's what we signed an NDA for. That NDA, I think, expired probably about 4 years ago now.
So, oh my God!
An entire decade, I couldn't talk about Gandalf's cart. So NDAs are like it's like and if you do breach them, there can be some penalties behind them.
Yeah.
But so what everybody saw on the screen in Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, which was released like 2003, I think.
2001? Yeah, no, Christmas 2001.
2002 period. Everybody saw that cart scene. I couldn't talk about that cutscene for like.
But you had seen it first. That's the important thing.
I'd seen pictures of it first. And I'm not going to admit, I mean, I thought, McKellen was basically Gandalf looked amazing, but I was extremely underwhelmed. It was like, I signed an NDA for this. I thought I was going to see the bloody Balrog.
Yeah, to be honest, did you know, by the way, Sean Connery was originally offered the role of Gandalf?
I heard that, yes.
Would have been a completely different film.
That would have made a very different performance. Suddenly, Gandalf is basically like running around slitting people's throats or something.
Yeah.
I have no idea. It'd be Scottish Gandalf. No, I can actually see that because I remember fantasy casting Lord of the Rings back in my studio days in Nottingham in the UK, and Sean Connery always came up as basically being Gandalf, either that or Alex Guinness, I believe, was the other choice. And Sean Connery used to get bumped in. Oh, you could be Gandalf, or you could be Aragorn, it could be this and that sort of stuff. And but no, I do remember reading that things like that, and I'm thinking that's a pretty lucky escape. I think actually with all the casting for the movies, I think they did a pretty good job, because I read some of the people that got cast before they did some casting changes, especially Aragorn. Pete Townsend was supposed to be Aragorn at one point.
Would not have worked.
And I was like, nah, that didn't work in that vampire movie, so it's not going to work in this one here. No. And they got basically Vers Morgan, and it's like, oh my god, that's figured Aragorn come to life. And you might read about Vers Morgan and basically his lifestyle. He's like, Lord, this is Aragorn. He lives the lifestyle.
He just literally stepped in and was, I'm Aragorn now for the rest of my life.
He was, yeah. Well, he's made him a lot of money, made him a lot of success. But when I signed the NDA, we thought we was going to see something exciting, and it was just Gandalf's cart. And I remember seeing the Gandalf cart miniature, and it's like, oh wow, this is going to be Lord of the Rings, is it? Oh boy, we're in trouble. But no, we weren't in trouble. The game did gangbusters. The game
it's still going. It's still brilliant.
Yeah. The game itself was brilliantly written. I think it's probably. I think in many ways it's probably taken everything they learned from Warhammer and 40k and made a very good skirmish strategy game of it, and it just works.
It's one of the most intuitive games I've ever played, I think, in terms of it makes just you can explain it to somebody and they go, okay, that makes sense, and away they go.
Yeah, and it flows, and it flows, and it works as an introductory game. I call it basically it's like chess. It's easy to get into, but surprisingly complex when you start playing into it.
Yeah.
But all the rules are very simple. I mean, your characters, you roll for initiatives. You basically your miniatures interact. You can basically interrupt interactions by spending basically heroic points, which I forgot what they're really called. But you spend those points to make your characters be more heroic, and that they can actually really make a difference in the game by doing heroic actions. So it's like almost like it was. In terms of games mechanics, taking what you could do what you saw on the movie screen and making Aragorn really be Aragorn in the game.
So you wrote Lord of the Rings articles for White Dwarf US. Where did you go from there? Where did eventually did life take you?
Well, I got to basically write Lord of the Rings articles for Games Workshop White Dwarf, and Dark and Light, some scenery articles, and I think I did the At Sea Lord of the Rings sea battle game. And I made the ship and everything, and it's like it was a fulfillment from that point. At that point, it was a fulfillment of a dream, because when I was a wee nipper, the thing that got me into Games Workshop games was reading Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
And I read Lord of the Rings. Found my friend had a game called Warhammer Fantasy Battle 2, and it's like this is the same thing.
There was a very clear influence there. With the
very clear influence. Halflings, hobbits, dwarfs. It's like this is the same things I've got to go into. So basically, my last couple of years at Games Workshop, I got to fulfill something I always wanted to do, to talk about Lord of the Rings, and it was a shared joy. Basically, going, I can now talk to people who are interested in Lord of the Rings as a gamer, talking about the games and my love for this, some of the lore that I'm a huge Tolkien nerd. And my lore for these things, and how to basically you can use these in your games, to how Middle Earth is more run down, like the fortifications are more broken because they've been neglected for eons, and how you can basically make these small games and stories out of basically what you try out of your toy soldiers. And the toy soldiers were a different scale, because we want Games Workshop game miniatures are like heroic scale, which is like 3 inches. Lord of the Rings miniatures are like two inches top.
32 mil and 28 mil, I think, is the difference.
Yeah. So 28 mil is almost is still 3 millimeters higher than basically traditional 25 millimeter gaming toy soldiers, but they were tiny compared to Games Workshop heroic scale. So we were playing with different types of soldiers and how to paint. And I got to basically talk about another love of mine, and I got to share that love of mine and go, "This is it. I've reached the pinnacle of everything I can talk about in gaming." It's like I come full circle from a little geeky kid who read Lord of the Rings, discovered Warhammer Battle, found White Dwarf 92, got a job in mail order, got a job in the studio, got a job in White Dwarf, then got a job in White Dwarf USA to talk about Lord of the Rings. It was a journey of my own, and I got to live what's basically, to my mind, was a dream, and it was just fun. I got to talk about something I really enjoyed, and it was just a joy talking about
that. So eventually, you left White Dwarf USA.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. You work for Games Workshop, so I can't. I don't know what they're like now, and I'm going to basically talk about a Games Workshop of a certain period. There was a point, and I don't know if it was during your period, and I hope it wasn't. You could get let go of Games Workshop, moved out of Games Workshop pretty rapidly. Yeah. And that's a polite way of saying it.
You come in, the locks have been changed level of being let go.
Yes, and I'm hoping they're not like that anymore. So
it doesn't seem like it.
I hope not. My experience was basically back in that period. It was a case if you did upset the wrong person, you could find yourself very quickly moved out of the company, which was wrong in some cases. We lost a lot of really good people. Unfortunately for me, I was in the studio. And it's a bit of a story, and you can choose to keep it in if you want to keep it. I have no problem if you want to keep it. Okay. I had a young family at the time, and it was a week of basically they all got basically this really nasty flu. So my wife, my daughter, and my son, there's body fluids all over the place, and it was me looking after them and trying to work at the same time. And I had to call out a couple of days. So I can't come in. I've really got to look after my family here. And I think I was coming in on Thursday to basically, and I overslept by a couple of hours. And I came in. I said, "I'm really sorry. I overslept. I've literally been exhausted." And I think one of the other guys who worked at White Dwarf at the time did the same thing, but he was fine. And I want to really make up the time. So I did my best to really make up the time the next week. Basically, I was working like double hours into late nights, and this is going to sound really awful, but this is a truth of the thing. I handed my timesheet in the end of the next week, and I said, "Look, I'm sorry, I'm not made up of my time up here. I've done my best." And I gave the timesheet to basically the White Dwarf editor, Games Workshop White Dwarf editor, who I will not name. And he said, I can't not make heads or tail of this piece of shit. You're an arsehole handing this to me. And I'm like, wow. I was like, okay, I've never been called that in front of an entire studio of people before. I'm not sure how to react to this. I tried to get. I think that's not right. You can't be called an asshole, and there's no repercussions. And I tried to speak to the studio manager, but he strangely was. I should have got the idea right this way. He just stopped speaking to me. Like, suddenly became unavailable for phone calls, meetings, or anything. And and the inevitable happens. The Wednesday of that next week, I was thinking, I can't do this. Nobody was speaking to me in the studio, and it's like I need to speak to somebody. I'm almost certain I'm out the door here, but I need to get some confirmation.
Yeah.
And I remember the entire studio got called into a meeting, and as we were walking towards the meeting, I was pulled into HR.
Right.
And I knew at that point what was going to happen. I was fired. There was some words said by the editor of White Dwarf, which were upsetting at that time, which he said to my face, and he bolted out the door. And that was that. That was the end of my time at Games Workshop. I wish I could say it ended in a nice way, but unfortunately, at that time, there's still that. Upset the one person, you can end up in the wrong place.
You are suddenly no longer a fit and if you are not a fit, that's it, out the door.
Yeah, but I was like going, but yeah. And it was a lot of frustration. I was very upset about it. I did get some compensation to kick me out the door. And that was the end of my tenure at Games Workshop. I think 2004 was basically the last time I wrote anything for White Dwarf, and it was the time they're all at sea articles.
Okay.
So that was basically my last contributions to White Dwarf before I was let go. I wish I was let go in a better way. I was very much a company man, as you can tell, and I loved the games. But Games Workshop had a reputation at that time of not being very gentle about certain things. And I think slightly short-sighted as well. I believe as well, because a lot of the people they let go of were better people than they kept. And it's just the way things are. I don't think Games Workshop's like that anymore. Mine is basically a very much a period of time that was a revolving door thing, was a thing for the company. I'm hoping, I don't think they're like that anymore. I spoke to other people looking at social media, they're not like this anymore. Thank God for that. And that's basically, that was the end of my days working for basically Games Workshop. Bit of a shame. I would like to have gone out a better way, but that's the way things crumble. It was hard not to take it personally at the time. I'm still a little cheesed off that basically, okay, fire me, whatever, but don't call me names to my face.
No, it's unprofessional.
That's unprofessional. It is actually. It was. That's my thoughts. This is just unprofessional. But a lot of things in Games Workshop are basically, this is what it is. It's the boys' own club. But
it was run very much that way at that time.
Yeah, and I thank God it probably has changed. But I don't want to end my time at Games Workshop in a complete downer. That was just a period of time that didn't work well for me. I managed at that point for almost 10 years live my dream. I got to basically talk about toy soldiers in White Dwarf magazine. I got to write for White Dwarf magazine with Paul Fat Bloke Sawyer.
Yeah,
it was like, what the fuck? So
there is no issues of swearing on my channel. People have sworn quite a bit on my channel.
Okay, and but I got to write about toy soldiers. So this little kid from a small country town, Melton Mowbray, from picking up his first White Dwarf 92 Casket Souls edition, looking inside the pages, looking at heavy metal, and going, "How the hell is a dry brush?" To being able to basically work in a magazine and tell people this is what dry brushing is, was basically a life journey, a very fun life journey. And I can say I blagged my way into it. I didn't. It was no more than me be saying, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I can build this. Yes, I can paint this. Yes, I can take pictures. And I blagged my way all the way up from basically getting a job at Games Workshop to working in the studio, to even working in the US studio, which I blagged my way into too. So it was pretty much
that power of saying yes thing. If asked, can you do something, say yes and see where it takes you.
The word is take a swing at it. The worst thing you can do is fail, and even though you might still learn from it. Games Workshop at that time, and it may still be like that, it's very much like, this is what you do, this is what you've got to do, figure out how to get it done. And when I joined Games Workshop, that's basically where it started for me. So everything I did at Games Workshop was pretty much, this is what you do, figure out how to get it done. Paul Sawyer said, you only need to write an article about scenery. I had no idea how to write an article. I went, okay, I will figure this out. And I sat down there, and this is basically, I did this in my lunchtimes and basically after work at Games Workshop, and wrote this article and laid the article out into White Dwarf. And I had no idea how to basically write an article. So the only thing I could do is sit there and go, the only thing I can use here is my own words. So I sat there and used my own words. This is how I made this tree, and this is what I built these pieces out of. It was cardboard I literally found in a dumpster, and so that's how everything came together. So what I always say is basically in life in general and everything else is give it a go, swing at it. It's something you want to do, make your dreams happen, because only you can make that happen. And if you do it every single day to move towards your dream, you will get there. I've done it with White Dwarf, absolutely amazing. Sad the way my time ended at Games Workshop, but I have a certain period I can look back and go, yeah, I was there. I did that. I was there during the Fat Bloke years, during a time which I know a lot of gamers look back at fairly fondly.
A golden age period of White Dwarf.
I've actually had a golden age a lot, but everybody has their own golden ages. But I think you might be about right there. I'm certainly finding it's almost like 20 years later. Folk like you, Ben, are contacting me, talking to me, going, "Hey, I remember you. You're that Nick Davis." And I'm going, "Do I owe you money?" But it was a time period it was beautiful. It was wonderful. I felt there was nothing we couldn't do, and as we were doing things in White Dwarf magazine, we were getting influenced by how magazines were printing at the time. If you look back at the magazines, how the magazine styling changed, and you look at certain magazines at the time, like basically what they called the lads magazines, we were changing the styling to basically reflect that. We were getting more bombastic about gaming, and I call it the Jeremy Clarkson effect, where basically it's like it's brilliant, and we just basically threw this enthusiasm into these magazine pages, and I feel it came out the other end. And I'm very happy to be part of that moment where I look back and go, yeah, we really did talk about the joy of gaming and basically how it affected us. How none of us were the best toy soldier painters, except for Paul. He actually was pretty skilled. I was terrible. I was like, basic color, ink wash, highlight, and that's it. And but we got to talk about the joy of it and show there's not this mystery around gaming. One of the things Games Workshop was really bad at the time, before basically I came into White Dwarf, was talking about how to game, how to build scenery. You saw some beautiful pieces done by basically the Heavy Metal team or basically the Studio Scenery team, which are aspirational and wonderful. But how does that explain to you how to make a hill?
And what you say as well about making it about connecting with the hobbyists on their level. I mean, I suppose that explains things like the Mike Walker articles that made their appearance at that time.
Oh, they were fucking hilarious.
Well, brilliant. No, but literally, like a bloke and his mates gaming in his garage, and I look back on those with an immense degree of fondness because it was an approachable way of putting. It
was approachable, and it basically, and one of the things Paul really did bring to the magazine, and was his freedom, was to basically everybody to talk about the hobby, about the joy of it, and to move away from this advertorial. I mean, there's still advertorial in the magazine. We've still got to sell toy soldiers.
Yeah, but
move away from this advertorial feel. Oh, here's the new release of the month. Let's talk about how brilliant this new release is. No, we got to talk about gaming. We got to talk about scenery building. We got to talk about painting. We got to show our terrible toy soldiers in the magazine pages and go, yeah, it's perfectly fine if your toy soldiers still look like Heavy Metal toy soldiers. You can still play games with them. It's just a wonderfully way done. There was a joy, a pure joy, and I'm very happy to be part of that moment, to be that pure joy of gaming. And it's stayed with that light, has stayed with me, of that part of going, yeah, I did something. I felt like I did something good,
Well,
and
I would be inclined to agree.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind, Ben. Some of it was, some of it wasn't, obviously, but I feel like we did something special. It was a special time. And Paul, and he probably got this. Is it really Nick saying this? Paul actually was a guy I felt that basically encouraged and mentored me to be something I never thought I could do. I was perfectly happy in box design, doing big box production, basically doing gamer supplements. I thought that's as far as I could get in Games Workshop, because there's no way I could write an article. I'm not an article writer. I just play with toy soldiers. I got no idea how to write about this. But Paul, having that faith and tapping this English kid from a small market town who has a terrible grade in English, just so you know, basically to write articles for the magazine. And it's like Paul gave me an opportunity which I can never really thank him for. I don't think he really realizes that. And the effect that he's had on the team and the people that he recruited into that magazine. So I have a lot to thank Paul for. If it wasn't for Paul Sawyer tapping me on the shoulder and said, we would like you to write an article about the scenery, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And it is as simple as that. There's a direct correlation between the two. So thanks, Paul, if you ever watch this.
Well, let's talk a little bit about... So go on.
I was about to say thank you. And I think he's lost a bit of weight now, because I think I've turned into Fat Bloke and he's turned into Thin Bloke. So
yeah, I have to be careful bandying the term fat bloke around now.
It's this American living, man. I tell you, I've had I had breakfast this morning. It's the only meal I'm going to eat today, and I can tell you, it's probably about 2,000 fucking calories. It's insane. So
let's talk a little bit about what you are doing now. Then, so you've got your own publishing company now. Is that
I
right?
run my own publishing company. It's Alt World Studios. We are an independent publishing company, which makes it sound grandiose and important. But basically, we're really, really tiny because the media has published my books. And you can see from some of the book covers behind me here. Alt World Studios is basically a name I had way back in the day when I was still working for Games Workshop, and I actually had a website called alt-world.com. If you want to look it up on Web Archive. And okay. I used to post alternative gaming supplement ideas in there. So there was actually a supplement for basically playing Dark Elden and Necromunda style rules. Cool. There was basically using Gundams using 40k rules, and eventually that morphed into Lord of the Rings rules using for Gundams. So I took these off the wall gaming things and just basically I couldn't plug in. So basically you take a different rule but use the Games Workshop system to basically play your toy soldiers from Gundam, or basically I would do Dark Elder and Necromunda. I think I also did a gaming system called Fight Dice, where you just roll like fast dice against each other, and you have to take off duplicates and that sort of thing. But that's called alt-world.com, and that morphed into Alt World Studios, which basically turned from basically this little fringe gaming plugin supplement thing to basically talking about my own stories. And my stories basically revolve around a group of characters called the Night Guardians. And the Night Guardians are a group of cuddly toys who protect you from the Bogeyman and these monsters from under the bed. Now, the concept is a very simple concept from my childhood. The story style is very much, it's very hard to describe it. Maybe being English, you probably understand a bit more. It's very tongue-in-cheek, 2000 AD-like humor. Okay, yeah. So I did write, the books are written for all ages. In fact, I may have a copy of it here. Let's see. Look at that handy dandy book. There we go. Night Guardians, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and from my website. I'm
going to put a link to this in the description for the video. So if you're looking for a copy of this, you can click the link in the description of the video below.
Yeah, actually, you can get this from Amazon UK. I'll hold it again for a quick pop. 156-page graphic novel. Took me about 4 years to put together. And it's basically, look through some pages here. It is a full-on graphic novel. And this is what I do. This is what I do now. I do have a day job where basically I work in DC for a non-profit healthcare company. But this is what they call in the USA a side gig. And
this is my side gig that we're on at the moment.
Oh well, you're a crown prosecutor, man. Christ's sakes, it's like that's not what I expected to come from you at all.
So, what age range is are the stories aimed at? Are they aimed at specifically kids, or is it more of an adult theme?
There's a series of books over here called The Amulet. I don't know if they ever came over in the UK. They're basically the publishing term is middle grade. My stories are written from ages 9 upwards. So if something like the best example I can say is you watch Toy Story, there's jokes for the kids, jokes for the adults, and there's a serious storyline running through it. My books are the same way. These are full graphic novels, and a handy dandy little books like this. This is a 6x9, which is basically a standard graphic novel size nowadays. And I've done a series of stories around these Night Guardians. So, and as you can see from the book covers behind me here, which are various covers of various books I have done, including the guy who's up there. I'm sure. I'm hoping he's going to camera. The red teddy bear.
Yeah.
At all.
I can see
his toy box next to him. And he is basically like a real dip down and basically full on Dio and cringy 2000 AD stuff. But it's comic book stuff. So without what I did at White Dwarf, and it took me a long while to get back to do this sort of things. But there's a connection from working from Games Workshop, getting to this point here. It was for Paul saying, "Give it a go." This wouldn't exist. I would not be doing comic books. I've always had a joy of comic books ever since reading turtle books back in the 80s. Mm-hmm. I'm now doing this. I go to shows here in the US. I'm a guest at US shows. So basically, what means is basically I'm not paying to be there. They invite me to come in. And basically talk about my comic books, which is a fun thing. And I get to basically do another love. I get to basically write comic books. I get to write my crazy British humor into these comic books about four cuddly toys who go off on these crazy adventures. And all of them are different. We have basically Tristan, who's basically the adolescent who's all over the place. We have an ADHD white bunny that tries to keep everybody together. We have Fernando, who is an orange cuddly toy mouse lion who is basically Latino, and it's a swashbuckling heart of a lion but the size of a mouse. And we have basically the old hoary mentor type teddy bear that tries to keep everybody together but doesn't really want to be there. So we have these fun comic book adventures. The Night Guardians is saying it's starting to gather some momentum now. And it's just it's a fun thing to do. I'm getting to live another dream. But this dream was made possible, and this is going to make Paul feel real weird. If it wasn't for Paul basically tapping me all those years ago and saying, write this Lizard Man article. So that point there has led to this point here. So, it's a fun place to be. And I get to do this sort of thing and swelter in basically 90-degree heat inside my studio, drawing comic book characters and all kinds of crazy stuff. In fact, you can see my Captain America inflatable over there.
I can just see my shoulder.
He's poking his head over. But it's a fun thing. I enjoy it. Again, it's another joy. And basically making that dream work is basically, dreams are wonderful things, but always work to make them happen. And same way, basically, with your channel here, I'm sure it was a dream of yours at some point going, I'm going to start talking about retro gaming. And before you realize that you have a whole channel going up around you and following all kinds of crazy stuff. So,
well, my approach was basically, I want to make videos that I want to watch on YouTube. It was, what would I like to watch? Well, I can't find that, so I'll make my own. Damn it.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, Ben, I've been seeing a lot more of this sort of things. I don't know, I call it retro gaming, for a better word. And it's like, wow, there's really a period that's we kind of touched upon here, and it always seems to be around this, late 90s, early 2000 period. I don't know what the games are like now because I haven't played them in like 10 years.
Well, that's one of the questions I was going to ask was, do you do any gaming now then?
I have not played a Games Workshop game since probably 2012. And
okay.
that's not a lie. Last game I played was Lord of the Rings Statue Battle game because I just love the game to death.
It's a brilliant game.
It's a brilliant game. And I've played some card games. For a while, I played I was playing my son against Pokemon, if that counts for anything. He used to drive him crazy because basically he can never beat me. Maybe because he used to come in with his power decks, and I used to beat him with the standard pick up off the shelf. And he goes, "How are you doing that, Dad?" I said, "Son, one day you'll know about tactics, and then basically you'll start beating me." He started beating me after he started learning tactics. But
he's not got into Warhammer then.
He never got into Warhammer. No, he went straight into computer games. I did try to play some Warhammer games against him, but there's you could see the phase.
It's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone, and sometimes no matter how much you won a demo game, when I used to play Warhammer 4s, we used to win demo games. Everything hit on a 4, everything killed on a 4, and everything saved on a 4. Basically, sometimes you just can't catch somebody, and it's like, are you sure you're my kid? But also, it's like, it's like,
yes, look at the tattoo.
Yes, look at the tattoo. So it says "Property of Nick Davis." But no, he just didn't catch it. But he went to play computer games and that sort of thing. So I've played some BattleTech. I've actually played more BattleTech in the last 3 or 4 years than I have anything else. Well, that sounds really weird, right? But
no, I know people who are big fans of BattleTech and who advocate.
Well, I've never stopped living Mecha. It's a Japanese anime thing. I had a Tau army at one point, but basically, oh my god, we got mechas in 40k, and yes, it's anime influenced, no matter what they say.
No, so, it's very definitely anime influenced.
It's very anime. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. I saw the test sheets. I know it's animated related. So I'm a big fan of mecha. So basically, BattleTech. I've been playing a few games of mecha, BattleTech here and there. I do keep an eye on what's going on in 40k. I saw like combat patrols has become a big thing, and I kind of find it kind of funny. I'm going, combat patrols. That's something I suggested like 20 years ago. So,
well, fun enough, I mean, literally the video I published yesterday on this was wondering whether Combat Patrol was an evolution of the start collecting boxes and the army deals that were kind of being pumped out by mail order way back in the 90s. If that was kind of that natural evolution there.
There might be a connection to that. I also basically, do you remember a set of rules called In the Flash? It was basically In the Flash 40K, In the Flash Warhammer, In the Flash Lord of the Rings. I think they're more connected to those. There's connective tissue to those type of things. So when I saw this Combat Patrol box, this Combat Control, it's like, hang a second, small squad action? Hang on. I said that 20 years ago. But no, I'm not saying I birthed that, because I probably didn't. But I think some of the stuff we did in the Flash stuff influenced these smaller squad actions, because I am aware toy soldiers are expensive. Games Workshop toy soldiers are expensive. It's just the nature of the beast. So I to my mind, seeing stuff like that, small action gaming leads to somebody basically, if I buy my squad of Imperial Guard, I can use them in a game without having to basically collect like a whole platoon.
Yeah.
And suddenly I can play the game against my friends, like collection of orcs or space marines or whatever. And maybe at that point, my Imperial Guard are getting beat up, and maybe I'll get myself a command squad, so I got there slightly better, or maybe I'll get myself a commissar slightly better. And the other guys basically doing the same thing. So you have a natural organic growth from squad action into small unit action to full on army action. And I think it's a wonderful way to go. But I am cognitively aware. Games Workshop toys are expensive. They're just where they are.
They are. No, it's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, they were expensive back in my day. They're probably, given inflation, they're probably equally expensive. So,
well, that was one of the interesting things that we explored in the course of some of the videos on my channel. We did a Tale of Four Gamers series. We're still doing it.
Okay,
we're coming towards the end of the first one.
Are you part of that?
It was me and three of my mates.
Okay, before we go into what army did you have?
Bretonnians.
Fantastic.
We did the original Tale of Four Gamers: Bretonnians, Beasts, Wood Elves, and Skaven. And
cool.
We did it at the basis of, let's collect the armies in the same increments that they did in White Dwarf. So £50 for the first month, then 25, then 25, 25. But we'll do it at 1998 prices. So we'll work out, okay, I want to add, a unit of this to my army. Well, what would that have cost in 1998? I can therefore, comparing and contrasting, the size of the army that we came out with over the course of collecting it is actually fairly comparable. I think that if I were to do something similar today at a similar rate, I would probably end up with a similar size army.
That's good to hear.
It does actually seem as though there is a track between the way in which, even though things have gone up in cost massively due to inflation, in terms of the amount of stuff that you get in the boxes has likewise increased.
I'm very happy to hear there's a correlation between the two. That's very important. I never like to think that gaming in the end will basically, you always have a cost barrier to it. But if you can figure a way of making things aspirational and attainable, then basically you can get people into the gaming hobby. I may not play the Games Workshop game for a very, very long time, but those 10 years of pure joy at Games Workshop for me. And the company is a game. The games the mechanics they have are brilliant, and it was a real joy at that time, and I even enjoy to see the gaming now. I see people gaming at, there's a place up the road here in Hagerstown in Maryland, which is about 40-50 minutes away from me here in rural Pennsylvania, and it's called Neverman Games, and I see people gaming in the back, and I still feel that urge, that pang, that pull. To basically start, I can start gaming again. Maybe I can just pick up a squad and paint them and stop playing. It's like, no, Nick, you don't have time to do this right now. You're doing comic books. But there's still a pull and an urge inside me for basically start to play and basically play with toy soldiers. I think I've still got all my Lord of the Rings miniatures here, and some of my 40k stuff. I think I still got my bit of my tower army and like 2 squads of Cadians I collected like ages ago. So I still got toy soldiers for gaming here, but I still feel that pang and that pull to play these games. I can see the joy on people playing, and it's like, yeah, it's just something I wanted to see. So,
you'll walk in there one day with one of your armies and go, hey, can I learn how the new edition rules? And that's it. You'll suddenly find yourself back in it. I guarantee.
I know. That's probably one of the reasons I'm stopping myself from doing it right now. because I know what will happen. This always will disappear, and if we could do a future video, you're just going to see piles of boxes.
Well, I hope if we do a future video, I'll see yet more Night Guardian artwork and other stuff cropping up on the
that thing, yeah. As well as I stay away from basically any other type of collection sort of thing. I have a bad habit of dipping into Lego here and there too. So
no, Lego is. If you want to talk about plastic crack, Lego is a whole other world of it.
It's a very different world. Yes, I have an entire Lego city downstairs. I tell you, once I get into a thing, it explodes. With my very limited time I have to myself, so actually, when we finish this conversation here, I'm going to be off writing a script for basically the Night Guardians versus Cthulhu.
Excellent.
Yeah. They're trying to stop Cthulhu from breaking into reality and all hilarious stuff assumes. So my time is my free time is very limited here and there. I just know if I start clicking to it, so I will just basically. It'll be no cartooning for you for a while, Nick. So I've got to be very careful how I do it, my interests at the moment in time. But there is a pang and a pull. Whenever I see people gaming and I see gaming going on, I even see it and read about it online and that sort of thing. I go, yeah, I feel this connection. And one day I'll be back there, just not right at this moment in time. So,
well, cool. I've taken at this point like 2.5 hours of your time.
Wow, I did say we might have run by about 30 minutes. We definitely have run by 2.5 hours. Well, I hope the recording makes sense. So
it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm honestly catching up with you. One final confession. You said about the first calls that you were taking on the mail order line were about Epic, and that you hadn't actually even played Epic. I mugged you, I think, at Games Day 1998. I'd have been a spotty 15-year-old. I swore I was desperately excited about Epic at that point, and I had the new Epic 40,000 rulebook, and I was dashing around Games Day accosting all of the White Dwarf personalities as you described them. I have your autograph on my Epic 40,000 rulebook alongside the Fat Blokes and Aid Woods.
Oh my God, that's big. I remember that Games Day because it was my first one basically as a White Dwarf writer, a White Dwarf contributor, and we got pulled into there, into the studio section, I believe, and then that's probably where you probably got the autograph. And there was like 5 of us, me, AD, Paul, Graham, and
Gav Thorpe was there as well, because I've got Gav on there as well.
I think Andy Shaman was there. Andy Shaman was there too, one of our production layout guys, and we were literally backed up against a wall.
Surrounded by hordes of excited kids and gamers going, look this.
Sign this. And it's like, we were like, oh, the pen hands.